continues to get good news from Drill Baby Drill during his State of the Union address, talking about natural gas, Homer City, and that data center and that natural gas-fired power plant to fuel that data center. Full-time employees when it's all said and done and up and running in 2027. 3,500, 10,000 building trades members to build it, a $10 billion investment. And then this earlier today that we talked about, and we're going to continue to talk about, President Trump has signed 4 executive orders aimed at boosting the coal industry. Here he is, Keith Rothfus. Is that not music to your ears, sir? Good evening.
This is all great news, Rob, all great news for the United States, great news for Western Pennsylvania. That Homer City thing is huge. I would drive out to Johnstown all the time. You see the plant off on the left side of 22 going up the ridge, and it just reminded you of the strength of America. And to see those smokestacks come down a few weeks ago, it was sad. But then this news that these new gas-fired plants are going to be put up there, and the energy the electricity that's going to produce. And we've been talking for quite a bit about Pennsylvania having the capacity to be the data center for the country, if not the world, with all the natural gas we have here. And it's going to happen right here in Indiana County, where you're going to have these new power plants coming online to support these data centers that are critical to this new industry of AI and data storage.
So I'm driving to Ohio on a little business recently, and I happened to go through Shippingport, and lo and behold, what was right there in front of my eyes, the Bruce Mansfield coal plant that has been idled for a while. Pristine property, railroads, river, everything you need, and data, and more data. Wouldn't that be nice for maybe round 2 of what they're doing in Homer City?
It would be fantastic. These orders that President Trump signed today, a long time coming. I was looking at some of the numbers. Back in 2023, just 2 years ago, China was responsible for 95% of the new coal power plant construction. And even last year, they hit a 10-year high on coal power plant construction. Meanwhile, we kind of unilateral disarmament. We'll just take this source of electricity offline and think that we're going to replace it with wind and solar, which have a place, but they're not going to replace the kind of base load that you get from coal, nuclear, natural gas. These are critical resources we have. They're our comparative advantage in a global marketplace, right? We're talking about, how does the United States gain its competitive edge? Well, you use the resources we have. You use the energy we have. And what President Trump did today was signing these orders. Now, I got to dig into them a little bit and see exactly what he's doing. But one of them is actually looking at grid security, reliability of the grid. And this is an issue that I talked about with President Trump when he was in office back in 2018.
So what happens next to our country? How do we get over all this tough tariff talk? And they continue to be in that verbal sparring match, China and the U.S. U.S. says 104% now. Deadline is midnight. The president has said 70 countries have already said they want to renegotiate. And now China is saying 50% on American goods. The tariff tough talk has got to stop. We got to find a way to come together because there's a lot of work to do. I understand why it happened, but we've got to get beyond it, Keith.
Yeah, this is where I think there needs to be more precision. I like the idea that finally China is becoming the focus. Canada's not frankly not the problem. It's always been China. China coming into the World Trade Organization back in 2000 was a huge mistake. That the New York crowd, the Washington crowd, bipartisan, let China in, they'll moderate. But it was just nonsense. There was no. These guys are communists. They have a command and control economy. It wasn't a free economy back in 2000 when they let them into the World Trade Organization, and they pulled every lever to their advantage. And we have this massive trade imbalance with China. Their cheap goods just flood in. China's been the problem for a very long time, and I think the focus on the tariff discussion needs to be on China and not other countries that frankly have not been as concerning in a big way as China is.
Why do you think he's moving at such relentless speed? I think he needs to just pull back a little bit and just focus a little bit more on job creation. And I think some of the things that he's been doing, such as that story about the coal industry, is definitely headed in the right direction. But why so rapid fire? Why is he trying to get so much done so quickly, do you think?
Because he only has 4 years, number one. But no, number two, I think shifting the focus back onto jobs, you go back and look at the election. Why is it that he got elected? Why was it successful this time? I think he came out of the election with a mandate, certainly to secure the border, certainly to bring some leadership in Washington where you could actually have a conversation. Biden would never talk to the press, and it was hard to get a straight statement out of Kamala Harris. But to have somebody who could articulate a vision of where we could be going in this country. And it's good to get back to focusing on things like jobs. I went down, you went over towards Ohio going through Shippingsport. I was on Sunday, took a drive down the Ohio Valley, further down along the West Virginia-Ohio border. I had met with some folks down there a couple hours away. And you go at factory after factory in what once was American industrial heartland, from here down to there, down the Ohio Valley. And to think of the opportunities we have with the right set of policies, right trade policies, right energy policies, right tax policies, the right regulatory policies, that's what we need to get the country moving again.
Well, let me tell you what else I brought up with my audience last night. I want to get your thoughts on this. If there was ever somebody who was ready to build to suit, it's Western Pennsylvania and the tri-state. So many people believe that tariffs is to try, that tough talk is to get businesses to be built here. Mainly some of those companies in China and other parts of the world coming here to beat the tariffs. But more importantly, what's good for you should be good for us. It's meaning that deal that's good for both sides. We've been sending you blank checks forever. You've taken the jobs over there for whatever reason. Now it's time for you to start coming here and also giving another opportunity like Nippon and U.S. Steel to form a partnership that I think will be 24 karat gold if it gets done. The whole idea behind manufacturing, you need river, roads, and rails. And we have so many brownfields that have sat empty for so long in Ohio and West Virginia. I mean, think of Crucible Steel and Bethlehem Steel and Ambridge. They are ready to go. You do a little demolition and you get going again, kind of what they're doing in Homer City. Couldn't that be a possibility? And wouldn't this be the place to come and get ready to put some boots on the ground and shovels in the dirt?
100%. You have a workforce here that we could really get people. You talk about it all the time, getting people interested in the trades. Why go to college and get $100,000 in debt and struggle getting a job when you're done, when you can go to the carpenters and get the training that you need, and all of a sudden you're making good money. These are viable careers, and the more we have of it here in Western Pennsylvania, the more we can know, look, we've done it before, we can do it again.
Last thing for former Congressman Keith Rothfus, talking energy, the Trump administration, the tough tariff talk, and a little bit of everything, including this. Crystal ball time. Now, what do you see the future as far as the administration? He's come out fast and furious, but now he's got to get his feet firmly planted on the ground and start following through with some of this stuff. What are you hoping for, and what do you see with this administration as we get ready to move into the month of April, the spring, and the summer months?
Rob, I've always been more of a serious type, deliberate, thinking things through, and I've never been much into the kind of rhetoric that President Trump uses, and he likes to put on a show. And I frankly think he needs to get out to places like Western Pennsylvania, get out to Ohio, and start making the case for what he's doing. Get into the heartland again, and stand in front of the factories that have been closed, and talk about the challenge that we have with respect to China. Again, I don't think Canada's the problem. I think we do have a separate set of issues with Mexico, with the cartels, the drug situation, and it's good to see the administration taking tough action on the cartels and going after their funding finally. But to look for constructive relationships we can have with other countries as well is important in the economy that we have.
I agree. Listen, Congressman, always a pleasure. Thanks for your time tonight. Stay well.
It's good talking, Rob.